Next thing we want to look at is messages. So we hit messages and we can make a new message. So let's make a new email. This is the interface that comes up. You're going to choose who the operator is, because you could be making a message and you might not actually be operating the system. This will go out on your email. And so we can either type in the address for someone, or we can click on the to button and it would take us to existing contact database. And then I could click on an existing email, add that to the message, and you notice that it adds it to the line. And when I'm done with this window, just hit complete. Of course, we do the same thing for carbon copy and choose things for there. On our subject, we can, I'm just going to type in test for video, and that'll be our subject. And we'll just type in test, test, test. And we'll go ahead and put my name and call sign. None of this is necessary. It can be really anything. But this is a standard form I tend to use. So now we've got an email that's ready to go. We've sent it to somebody, we have a subject for it, and we've got something in the body. Our choices up at the top is we can send this as a Winlink message, so it actually goes out on the internet, or we can send it peer-to-peer. That would be directly to another station and not going out into the Winlink system. So if I was connecting directly to another station, say another hospital, directly, and they were going to read the email there, then I can use peer-to-peer. And I can also request a read receipt if I wanted to. Notice that the system does have spell check. It's been added to it recently. I love that because I'm not a great speller. I could save this in the drafts folder, so if I save it in the drafts folder, I could go ahead and do that. If I come down to our system folders now and look in drafts, there's my message. One thing I want you to notice is under the subject, it's added the / WL2K in front of my subject. That needs to be in front of all of the messages in the Winlink system. That way Winlink doesn't see this message as a spam and automatically delete it. So that's automatically been put in it because I checked it in the preferences box. So I've got it in drafts. If I actually wanted to put it into my outbox, I would just select it in the drafts, and I can go to the Move To key and then select where I want to move this message to. In this case, I want to move it to the outbox. Click on Move To. It's going to take and move that message wherever I've sent it. In this case, to the outbox. So now it's sitting in the outbox and ready to be sent out on the very next session that we have. Under messages, we have other choices. We can reply to a message, reply to all if there are multiple users. We can forward a message. We can acknowledge a receipt. We can edit an existing messages, and we can also use a template. So those are all the different choices that we have under messages. We've already experienced the Move To box a little bit. Again, any message that we have in our system, once we highlight it, we can choose where we'd like to send that to, whether it's the system folders or any of the personal folders. So you can have stuff. You can also highlight multiple messages, so we could have 3 at a time and move them all to a particular folder. So that's the way you can move things around. So you choose the folder and hit Move To, and it does it. If I wanted to delete a particular message, instead of having to move it to the delete box, and I mean, I guess that's one way you could do it, but instead of that, we could just hit the delete key here, and it would do it much quicker. Directly delete it. So that covers the basic line items across the top over to the open sessions, and we'll talk about that in a minute. One thing I did want to show you here is the help files. If you click on help and go to help context, help window in the system, everything that I've talked to you about in this program and in future programs is all listed in this help file. So in terms of setting up the system and configuring things and showing you examples of what windows look like, you can see here is the RMS Express properties, and it goes through and talks about every single line item and exactly what is in there and how it operates. This just is an excellent place for getting information on how to use the system. Okay, so now we're actually ready for the fun part of this, and that's actually having a session. You notice right here we have open session, and beside that is a drop down, and these are all the different types of sessions that you can have. You notice there's two groups. We have the WL2K group, and we've got the P2P group. The WL2K group are all the Winlink connections. So we're going to connect to an RMS gateway station and go out to the CMS and pass mail through Winlink. The P2P is peer-to-peer. If we were connecting directly to another radio station and the email was going to be read there, no internet or no CMS stations involved, then peer-to-peer is what we would select. And you notice they're the same types of setup. So if we've got a packet peer-to-peer, we've also got a packet Winlink. So we're going to select Telenet, WL2K, and it'll be in the box here. Just think of Telenet as internet. That's what we're going to go out on the internet directly from this location. Matter of fact, you don't even have to have a radio to do this. If you're sitting at home and you're just on the internet with your computer, you can go check your Winlink email just using Telenet. And matter of fact, I suggest even if you don't have a system set up, go ahead and download the software and set this up and create your Winlink account and use Telenet, and that way you'll already be established in the system. So to start a session, we're just going to hit open session. When I hit open session, the session box opens up. And this is standard. They'll all look pretty much like this, although this one's very simplified. There aren't many choices. Of course, exit would stop the session and take us back to the main window. Setup is where you go and set up the particular configuration for that particular session hardware. For the internet, there's not much to set up. I did want to show you that you can set up an auto connect time, and you can set it up to where it connects every 5, 10, 15, however many minutes are listed here. And for internet, there's not going to be any problem of interrupting radio. So you could set this up to go get your mail every 5 minutes or however long you set it if you wanted to. We're going to leave it disabled. And when you get that set up the way you want it, you would just hit update and you're ready to go. So we'll start our first Telenet session. So we just hit start. And the session started, and you can actually look through and kind of see what's happening in the session. You notice start is grayed out. As soon as the session is over, start will go bold again. The other way you can tell it's over is that it's disconnected here. But you can go and look. It went out connected to the Halifax CMS and requested my mail. It told the system what version of RMS I was using and some specific information about my particular system. Went and looked for my email and didn't find anything to download. I didn't have anything to upload, so it gave an FQ, which is a disconnect signal, and it disconnected. And that's the session. That's all there was to it. If we were done, we could hit exit, and if we'd have had mail, it would have shown up here in our inbox. Okay, let's look at the next type of session. Again, we'll go to our open session, go to our drop down, and this time we're going to do packet. Packet is VHF packet, and basically for local stations 50 miles out or so, what you normally have line of sight with VHF. So we're going to open this session, and when the session opens up, you'll notice the window looks a little different. The first thing we have is an exit, and then we have setup. So we're going to go right to the setup and look at what's available. For the Cantronics unit that we have, you're going to go in and select that particular type of unit. And this particular one is Cantronics. There's no particular one, so we'll choose Cantronics. Then we're going to go for the model of the one that we're using, which is the KPC3+, so we'll select that. Our 9600 is what we have for serial communication speed on our Kenwood TS2000 radio, so we'll leave that there. And there are two types of connections. There's 1200 baud and 9600 baud. Everything in our area is 1200 baud, so we want to select that by clicking on the dot here. And basically you can leave all of these things the way they are. You really don't need to change any of it. The one thing I did want to show you is the transmit level. This level here is the strength of the transmit signal coming out of the Contronics. 100 should be fine, but if you did need to adjust the output level going to the radio, this is where you would do it. It's pretty unlikely that you'll need to. So once all this is checked, you just hit update, and every time you make a change like that, it goes out and talks to the Contronics and initializes it. When it does that, it'll come back, if everything's okay, and say initialization complete. At that point, you know you're good to go with the Contronics and can move on. One thing that I did want to show you, and we'll go there real quick, is if you weren't really sure of the COM port you were using, you can go to your control panel and go to the device manager, open that up, and once you've opened that up, these are all the devices on your computer. If you go to COM, the ports, and just open that up, you can see the USB COM port and which COM port it's connected to. In our case, it's COM port 11. So that's a way that you can go and verify that it's okay. If there was some problem with that, you would have some kind of indicator here that would say that there's a problem. You could right-click on that, go to Properties, and this brings up the particular unit. You notice that I have an FTDI serial port adapter that I'm using, and you can go and look at the port settings for it. Notice it's 9600, that's the default of most of these. And we can go to the driver. If for any reason you had to update the driver, this is where you would do it here. Again, it's most unlikely that you would need to do that. These units seem to work pretty good, but if you do have a problem and you needed to use a different driver, you should have gotten a disk with your adapter, and you could update the driver with that. You can also go to the internet for the manufacturer and pull down the driver, copy it onto your computer, and then use the update driver here to update it. So that's just there. I just wanted you to see that so you know where it's at. So we'll back out of all of this and go back to our session window that's still open. So how do we know where to connect to? Well, it's you come up here to channel selection and click on channel selection, and this will bring up all of the local packet stations that are available for you to connect to. This will automatically update, but if you wanted to manually update this, you can just hit update table, and it goes out on the internet and looks at the Winlink database and will update this list of stations. If you didn't have internet access, you could click update table via radio, and what happens is that would put a request in your outbox to Winlink, so that next time you connected to Winlink, it would make the request, and then the time that you connected after that, it would download this information, and it automatically puts it in here. You don't have to do anything to make it get to this location. It would automatically load it here, as opposed to the text file that you'd gone out that I showed you earlier if you actually wanted to get a list via text. But if you do it here, just like you did it to update table over the internet, it automatically loads it once it receives it. So you can see that the first one on this list is my RMS gateway station, K4REF-10. You notice it's the frequency that's listed for it. It's 1200 baud, gives my grid square. It's public. Shows the distance and bearing to it. In this particular instance, I'm using my computer at our hospital location, so it's actually not showing the correct distance and bearing, but I'm about 7 miles away in a northeasterly direction. So we're going to select this particular one. Highlight the one you want, hit select channel, and it will load it here in the connection area. You notice that this is a direct connection, so we're going to connect directly to my station. So you notice that below this, attention, set the packet radio frequency to 145.050, and there's no automatic connection to it. So let's look at the radio and look at the 3 things that we need to do there to prep the radio.